Olivia walked to his table. Her hands trembled, her pulse thundered, and then she leaned forward and kissed him. The room went silent. Every eye turned. Even the music seemed to hold its breath. It wasn't a long kiss, just a few seconds, but it was enough to change everything.
Welcome to Mafia Love Story, where passion meets the power. If you crave steamy romance mixed with intense crime thriller drama, you're in the right place. Ready to get hooked on your next obsession? Don't forget to like this story, subscribe for the next chapter, and tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Let's get dangerous.
There are cities that never sleep, and then there are souls that never find rest. Seoul, at midnight, shimmered like a promise too beautiful to trust. Among its neon lights and sleepless streets lived a girl who once believed in happy endings, until reality taught her that dreams can also starve. Olivia Ikeji came to Korea chasing light, a scholarship, a future, a name that would someday be written across the glass walls of a fashion empire. She was 26, bright, full of life, with eyes that carried both faith and fatigue. Her long black curls brushed her waist like silk spun by prayer. When she first landed in Seoul, everything smelled like hope. Coffee, rain, and new beginnings. For 2 years, she studied fashion design at Hanyul University, one of Korea's most prestigious schools. And for 2 years, she believed the universe was kind. She met a boy named Lee Dong-min. Soft eyes, warm smile, the kind of man who made loneliness feel like a temporary condition. He helped her with assignments, taught her how to pronounce words right, waited with her at bus stops when winter nights grew too cold. When her scholarship ended and she could no longer afford the dorm, he said, "Stay with me, Olivia, until you figure things out." And she did, because she thought love was safe, because she thought he was home. But love, sometimes, is just the slowest way to get broken. It began with little things: perfume on his shirts, messages deleted too fast, a phone call that ended in sudden silence. Olivia noticed, but she wanted to believe he was different, until the night she followed him and found him laughing, lips pressed against another woman's neck, the same lips that used to whisper, "You're my forever." She didn't cry that night, not because she wasn't hurt, but because pain had swallowed her whole. When she confronted him, he didn't even look sorry. He just sighed, ran a hand through his perfect hair, and said, "Olivia, you knew this wouldn't last. You don't fit in here. You never did." Then he did the unthinkable. He pushed her out of his apartment, out into the cold, with nothing but her backpack and a bruised heart. That night, Seoul didn't look like a city of dreams. It looked like survival. Olivia wandered through the streets, hands trembling, eyes red, until she reached the only place that hadn't judged her, the Sapphire Room, a high-end restaurant where she worked part-time as a waitress. Her manager, Han Woo-ram, found her sitting on the kitchen floor, clutching her bag. He was a short, chubby man, but kind. The kind of man who had seen too many stories of broken people trying to heal in secret. He said, "You can stay here." "You can stay here," he said softly, pointing to the storage room behind the kitchen. "Just for a while, until you find a new place." And so she did. She slept beside boxes of wine and sacks of rice, listening to the hum of refrigerators and the distant laughter of diners who would never know what it meant to lose everything. Days turned into weeks. Olivia worked 3 jobs: the convenience store by dawn, the hotel by noon, the restaurant by night. Her hands cracked from detergent, her body ached, but her pride stayed unbroken. She smiled at customers, even when her heart was bleeding, until one night, a night that would change everything. The Sapphire Room was packed with Seoul's elite, businessmen, politicians, and a man who always sat in the corner booth alone, watching the world with the eyes of someone who had already conquered it: Kim Tae Yong. Strikingly handsome, Tall, broad shoulders, hair falling in soft layers that brushed his neck, a wolf cut that made him look both dangerous and untamed. Nobody really knew who he was, but everyone feared him. He rarely spoke, and when he did, people listened. Whispers called him the Phantom of Seoul, the man who owned half the city's night and none of its mercy. But tonight, fate placed him directly in the path of a girl who had nothing left to lose. Olivia was serving table 7 when her world froze. There he was, Lee Dong-min, her ex, dressed in confidence, holding hands with a new girl who looked like perfection painted in red lipstick. When his eyes met hers, he smirked, a smirk that said, "Look at you now." The humiliation was a fire in her throat. She wanted to disappear, to erase the pity in her new girlfriend's gaze. "Olivia?" he said mockingly. "Didn't expect to see you." "Here." Her voice almost broke. I don't work here. I'm here to eat, with my boyfriend." The words slipped out like instinct, pride's last defense. The girl beside Dong-min tilted her head. "Really? Where's your boyfriend then?" Olivia turned, heart racing, scanning the room, and her eyes landed on him, Kim Tae Yong. He sat alone, his gaze steady, unreadable. Something about him felt both terrifying and magnetic. Before logic could stop her, Olivia walked to his table. Her hands trembled, her pulse thundered, and then she leaned forward and kissed him. The room went silent. Every eye turned. Even the music seemed to hold its breath. It wasn't a long kiss, just a few seconds, but it was enough to change everything. His lips were cold, his stillness dangerous, his aura overwhelming. But beneath that danger was a curiosity, a flicker of something wild and human. When she pulled away, her breath shook. He looked at her, calm as a storm about to break, and said in a low voice, "You have no idea what you've just done, do you?" She didn't answer. She couldn't. Dong-min's smirk had vanished. His face was pale. His girlfriend blinked in confusion. Olivia turned and walked away, head high, every step echoing with false confidence. Behind her, Kim Tae Yong's eyes followed her like a man who had just found a reason to stay alive. That night, the city wrote a new story. A kiss born from pride, a heart born from ruin, and a man who had stopped believing in love until a stranger's lips woke something long buried beneath his scars. What Olivia didn't know was that she had just kissed Seoul's most feared Mafia boss. And what Tae Yong didn't know was that the girl who kissed him was about to rewrite the last 6 months of his life. Because somewhere, hidden in his medical file, was a diagnosis, a ticking clock that said he was dying. But destiny had other plans. Some kisses fade like rain on glass. Others burn themselves into your soul and refuse to leave. For Kim Tae Yong, that kiss was an interruption, a spark in a life built from silence and control. For Olivia Ikeji, it was a mistake, one she would have to pay for in ways she never imagined. The next morning, Seoul rose under a pale sun, but in one of the city's tallest penthouses, Kim Tae Yong sat at his marble desk, replaying the scene from the night before in his mind. The kiss, the audacity, the fire in her eyes. No fear, no trembling, just raw, stubborn courage. He wasn't used to that. Men bowed before him, women trembled, but she had walked into his silence and set it on fire. Find out everything about her, he told Lee Min-ho, his lieutenant. Min-ho raised a brow. The waitress? The girl, Tae Yong corrected. Olivia Ikeji. I want to know who she is, where she works, what she hides. Min-ho gave a low whistle. You're serious? Do I look like I joke? Tae Yong replied. eyes cold as winter glass. 2 days later, fate played its next move. It was closing time at the Sapphire Room. Olivia was stacking glasses when she heard that familiar voice behind her, low, deep, impossible to forget. "You have a habit of causing chaos, don't you?" She froze. Slowly, she turned. There he was, Kim Tae Yong, in a black suit that looked like it had been made from sin and shadow. His presence filled the room. Everyone else seemed to vanish. Olivia's breath caught. You came here?" "You kissed me in public," he said calmly. "I thought it was polite to return the favor with a conversation." Her lips parted in disbelief. Then her pride kicked in. "Look, about that night, I'm sorry. I was just angry, desperate. It was nothing." "Nothing?" he echoed. "You called that nothing?" "Yes," she said sharply, "and I'll pay you back for the trouble I caused." For a moment, Taeyong just stared at her, and then, to her shock, he laughed. A deep, low laugh that rolled through the room like distant thunder. "You'll pay me. Do you even know who I am, little girl?" "A man who's apparently bored enough to follow me to my workplace," she shot back. Minho, standing nearby, choked on his drink. No one talks to Taeyong that way. Taeyong tilted his head, studying her. His gaze wasn't cruel, just curious, amused, intrigued. If anyone else had spoken to me like that, they'd be at the bottom of the Han River by morning. Olivia crossed her arms, meeting his gaze without blinking. "Well, good thing I'm not anyone else." The silence stretched, charged, dangerous, intoxicating. Then he smiled, slow, faint, real. "You're fire," he murmured. "I haven't met fire in years." She swallowed, trying to stay composed. "And you're ice, cold, scary." "Good," he said, stepping closer. "Then maybe we'll balance each other out." Her pulse thundered. His nearness felt like a dare, like standing too close to something that could burn and freeze you at the same time. "I don't want your balance," she whispered. "I just want you to leave me alone." "You started this," he said low, brushing past her. "I'm just finishing it." Over the next week, Taeyong appeared everywhere. At the convenience store, pretending to shop through ramen, at the hotel lobby, standing by the elevator when she came to clock in, at the restaurant, sitting in his usual booth, waiting. He never said much, just watched, like a man studying the only thing that made him feel alive. Olivia tried to ignore him, but it was impossible. No matter how stubborn she was, she could feel it, the pull between them. Fire and ice, defiance and desire. One evening, she stormed up to his table, frustration breaking through her pride. "Why are you following me?" "Because I can," he said simply. "Do you think this is funny?" "No," he said, eyes softening. "I think it's fascinating." Her anger faltered for a second, not because of what he said, but because of how he said it. There was something in his tone, something weary, something that sounded like a lot like pain. "What do you want from me, Taeyong?" she asked quietly. He looked at her for a long moment, then said, 6 months. She frowned. 6 months for what? "To live," he said, almost like a joke. "They tell me that's all I have left." The world seemed to tilt. She blinked, unsure if she heard right. You're sick?" "Cancer," he said softly. "Terminal." Silence filled the space between them. Her anger melted into shock, confusion, something dangerously close to compassion. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," he replied. I just thought, before I die, I should try something new. Like talking to someone who doesn't fear me. Her throat tightened. You're strange. So are you, he replied with a faint smile. He, the man of ice, who had forgotten how to feel, found warmth in her fire. She, the girl of fire, who had forgotten how to trust, found calm in his cold. But fate was not done playing with them, because what neither of them knew was that his illness was a hidden plot, a deadly secret and organized crime, by his friends, or like he would like to call them, wolf in sheep's clothing. But before the truth surfaced, love would already have crossed the line between life and death.
Some stories burn slowly. Others explode, leaving nothing behind but truth and ashes. Olivia Ikeji never meant to fall for him. But how do you stop loving the man who looked at your chaos and called it beautiful? It had been weeks since that night in the Sapphire Room. Weeks of quiet conversations and stolen glances. Kim Tae Yong had become a constant shadow in Olivia's world. Steady, cold, yet strangely gentle. He never demanded, he never touched. He only watched her like she was the only piece of peace he'd ever known. Sometimes she caught him smiling faintly at nothing, like he'd found joy in simply existing near her. Other times, she'd find him lost, staring at the city from his car window, eyes distant, as though time itself was slipping through his fingers. "Why me?" she asked one night as they sat by the river, watching the lights ripple on the water. "Out of everyone, why are you drawn to me?" He looked at her for a long time before answering. "Because you don't see me as the monster everyone else does." She tilted her head. "And what if I start to?" "Then I'll stop breathing," he said softly, "because it means you've seen all of me." His words lingered, sinking deep into the cracks she thought had healed. Meanwhile, in the shadows of Seoul, whispers began to stir. Tae Young's rivals, the Han Syndicate, had noticed his distraction. And in their world, love was weakness. One night, Lee Min-ho entered Tae Young's office, face tense. "Boss, there's talk that the Han Syndicate is moving. They've been tracking the girl." "Olivia?" Tae Young's voice turned dark. "Yes. They think she's your leverage point." Tae Young stood, the air in the room dropping a degree colder. "Find them before they find her." But fate, cruel as ever, moved faster. It was closing time when Lee Dong-men walked into the Sapphire Room again, this time alone, drunk, and bitter. He saw Olivia clearing tables, the same confidence that once made him jealous, now infuriating him. "So it's true. You're sleeping with him now, the Mafia boss." Olivia froze. "Dongmin, please leave. This isn't your... You think you're better than me now because you kissed a killer?" Before she could respond, Tae Young appeared from the shadows. Black suit, sharp eyes, death in his calm voice. "You should leave before you say something you'll regret." Dongmin turned, his fear barely hidden behind drunken anger. "Or what? You'll kill me too?" Tae Young's eyes didn't blink. "If you touch her again, I won't need to." The tension hung like a blade in the air. Olivia stepped between them, her voice trembling. "Please, both of you, stop." But fate doesn't stop when begged. A gunshot echoed. Glass shattered. Chaos erupted. Outside, the Han Syndicate had arrived. Black cars, masked men, bullets splitting the night. Tae Young grabbed Olivia and pushed her down behind a table as bullets tore through the restaurant. "Stay down," he barked. She was shaking, terrified, but when she looked at him, even as he fired back, eyes burning, blood seeping from his arm, she realized something. He wasn't fighting to survive, he was fighting to keep her alive. The world became a blur of screams, gunfire, and smoke. Minho and Tae Yong's men arrived, pushing the attackers back. But the damage was done. Olivia's heart pounded as she saw Tae Yong slump, his breathing uneven. "Tae Yong!" she cried, rushing to him. He smiled weakly. "Looks like 6 months came early." "Don't you dare say that," she whispered, pressing against his wound. "Don't you dare leave me now." His hand brushed her cheek. "If I die tonight, I'll die finally knowing what it felt like to be alive." Tears spilled from her eyes. "You're not going to die. I won't let you." "Promise me one thing." "What?" "If I don't wake up, live the life I couldn't." She shook her head violently. "No, you'll wake up. You have to." Sirens wailed in the distance. Minho's voice echoed, calling for help. But as Tae Young's eyes began to close, Olivia's voice broke into sobs. "Please, Tae Young, don't leave me." His hand fell from her cheek. The world went still. That night, Seoul wept. A girl's tears fell on a chest of a man who wasn't supposed to feel. And as the sirens faded into the dawn, no one knew if love had just ended or if it had only begun.
They said he was gone, but some souls don't rest until love pulls them back, and some stories don't end where the world expects them to. When Olivia opened her eyes, she was in a hospital corridor, hands trembling, body numb. Doctors had taken Tae Young into surgery hours ago. She hadn't stopped praying since. Han-woo Ram and Lee Min-ho sat beside her. For once, even Min-ho looked broken. "He lost too much blood," Min-ho said quietly. "They said, there's a chance he won't make it." Olivia's throat closed. "No, he promised he'd live." She stood abruptly, walking toward the ICU door, ignoring everyone's protests. Inside, Tae Young lay still, pale against the white sheets, machines beeping steadily. She took his cold hand in hers. "You said 6 months. I'm holding you to that promise." Hours passed, and then a sound, a cough, a flutter of eyelids. "Tae Young?" she gasped. He blinked slowly, groaning. "I told you, you talk too much," he murmured faintly. She laughed through her tears, collapsing beside him. "You scared me." "Good. Now we're even." Days later, when he recovered, a doctor entered his room holding a file and looking pale. "Mr. Kim, we need to talk about your diagnosis." "The cancer?" Tae Young asked, calm. "It was a mistake. Faulty equipment. You're healthy. Completely." For a moment, silence. Then Tae Young laughed, a sound like relief, disbelief, and gratitude all tangled together. "So the 6 months I was dying, I was actually living." Olivia's eyes filled. "Then live for real this time." He took her hand gently. "Only if you live it with me." Weeks later, the war ended. The Han Syndicate fell. And Seoul, for once, slept peacefully. On a quiet rooftop overlooking the city, Tae Young and Olivia stood hand in hand. The wind brushed her curls against his chest. He looked at her, the fire that burned through his ice, and said, "You ruined my peace, Olivia." "Good. Peace is boring." He laughed, pulling her close, his voice soft against her hair. "I used to think love was a weakness. And now," she whispered, "now, I think it's the only thing that makes men like me human." That night, under the Seoul skyline, the girl who came to Korea chasing dreams found love instead, and the man who ruled the city with fear finally learned what it meant to be alive. Fire and ice, chaos and calm. Two souls who were never supposed to meet, but did. And that one kiss changed everything.